Senator Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director Haines, again, looking at your office's 2022 annual threat assessment, it's clear there's a lot going on in the world right now, and I understand that resources are finite and trade-offs often have to be made. That is in, I think, a large part what makes your job very challenging. You know, clearly the situation in Ukraine is taking up a lot of bandwidth right now, and I would presume that Indo-PACOM requires a significant amount of resources as well to fully understand the threat environment. And, you know, these two things are obviously related. But what about some other regions in the world? In light of the worldwide threats you have articulated here today, do you feel the intelligence community has the necessary resources in place to confidently understand the threat environment in other places such as Afghanistan, northern Syria, Pakistan, and Iran?
Thank you, Senator. I mean, I think, you know, like all good bureaucrats, that we could spend more money on these issues. There's no question. I mean, I think certainly that's true. But we are doing our very best, as you indicate, to ensure that we're not taking our eye off the ball, essentially across the globe, on issues that are also of critical importance among the ones that you've identified.
All right, thank you. I want to ask you a specific question about the MQ-9, the Reaper drones. So the Air Force has been reluctant to invest in upgrading the platform and proposes to retire it potentially like in 2035, even as the demand from combat commanders for the system remains high. You know, their argument, you know, has been that the platform's not survivable in a China-Russia scenario. I think it's pretty clear that it would be survivable in a Russian scenario now. Do you have an opinion on the continued utility of reconnaissance platforms such as the MQ-9, particularly as we face increased activity in the so-called gray zone below the threshold of armed combat?
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No.
Senator, I have been the beneficiary of MQ-9 operations for the last 20 years. It's an outstanding platform. It's done great things. With increasing threats emanating from China, their ability to reach out and touch those kinds of things, I totally understand why the Air Force wants to divest of that platform. The efficacy of that in the coming years in low-intensity conflict, counterterrorism operations, it'll always be useful in a low air defense kind of environment. But in a high-end environment, I don't think it's very survivable.
But we have, looked at the, Russian surface-to-air missile threat environment as, high-end. Turns out, like a lot of things, day one of the war is much different than day 60 or 90 or 180 of any conflict. So I'm concerned that not only this platform, but sometimes we look at divesting from platforms that could provide incredible utility, further along in the timeline. General, I got another question for you here in my last minute. Anti-satellite, a ban on ASAT testing. The administration recently announced this. It's a policy I agree with. Russia, China, they do not, share this goal. Nor do they abide by any kind of similar policy. The Russians and the Chinese both over the last about decade and a half have performed ASAT tests, the Russians more recently. The DIA's 2022 report on challenges to security in space lists orbital debris as a significant challenge to space operations and concluded that the debris endangers spacecraft of all nations in low Earth orbit, including astronauts and cosmonauts aboard the ISS, but also China has a space station as well. Given the fact that both the Russians and Chinese conduct manned space operations, what would be your assessment as to why they continue to put their people in harm's way by conducting these dangerous tests?
Senator, I think they value that capability in space as an asymmetric advantage over our superior technology and continue to pursue those kinds of capabilities. Whether or not they would actually use it is another discussion.
Do you expect them to do more anti-satellite tests?
We have not seen evidence that they plan in the near future of doing more, but I would expect as they go through their development processes, they will do more tests.
All right. Thank you, General. And thank you, Director Haines.
Thank you.